They told you to become your best self. And you believed them. The books, the podcasts, the influencers, all said the same thing. Wake up earlier, read more, lift heavier, meditate, hustle, grind, level up, be relentless. And so you did. At first it felt like power, the momentum, the progress, the dopamine of watching yourself evolve. You became your own project, sculpted by discipline, driven by desire, obsessed with transformation. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. The mirror stopped showing growth. It started showing failure. Not enough reps, not enough income, not enough hustle. And suddenly, the voice in your head wasn't cheering you on. It was tearing you down. You should be further by now. Everyone else is ahead. You're still not who you're supposed to be. That's the part they don't tell you. That self-improvement has a shadow. And if you're not careful, the journey to become better can become the very thing that breaks you. Because the more you chase the ideal version of yourself, the more distant you feel from who you already are. So this is the journey we're about to take into the underbelly of the self-help world, into the illusions, the addictions, and the ego traps that hide behind getting better. This isn't an attack on growth, it's a mirror. And when we're done, you might see yourself, your habits, your hustle, your hunger. A completely different light. Because the dark side of self-improvement isn't just real, it's closer than you think. Now let's pull back the curtain and look at how this culture of self-betterment took over our lives, and where it all began. There was a time when being better meant being decent, kind, reliable, wiser than yesterday, but not obsessed with tomorrow. But something changed. Somewhere in the 21st century, self-improvement stopped being a quiet, personal pursuit and became a culture, a movement, a cult. Welcome to the age of optimization, where your morning routine needs a name, where your productivity is tracked like a stock market, where your very soul is measured in output. It's not enough to grow. You have to hack. You have to track. You have to build a system for everything. Your sleep, your nutrition, your relationships, your thoughts. You're no longer a person. You're a project, a machine to be upgraded, relentlessly, mercilessly, forever. And the question echoing in your head, louder than ever, am I doing enough? But that's the trick. You will never feel like enough. Because the culture wasn't built to let you feel that way. Scroll through social media and you'll find it. Men in cold plunges at 4 a.m., women manifesting wealth through 10-step morning rituals, podcasts promising that if you just do this one thing, everything will fall into place. It's intoxicating. Because for a while it works. You wake up earlier, you get more done, you feel powerful. But the high doesn't last, because optimization is a treadmill. The more you run, the faster it goes, and if you dare to slow down, you fall behind. Not just in life, but in your sense of worth. You see, the cult of optimization doesn't just sell productivity, it sells identity. It whispers, you are what you achieve. You are what you produce. You are only as good as your most recent version. And so you keep grinding, keep upgrading, keep chasing the illusion that one day you'll finally be complete. But what if the chase is the trap? What if the version of you that's enough isn't ahead? What if they're already here, but drowned beneath layers of pressure, comparison, and compulsive self-monitoring? This is the first deception, that becoming better always leads to becoming happier. Because the pursuit of perfection often creates the opposite: discontent, insecurity, exhaustion. Now, as we move on to why you still feel empty, we'll explore the emotional cost of chasing self-mastery and why, despite all the progress, so many of us still feel lost. You've done everything right. You read the books, you journal, you work out, you meditate, you've built the habits, you've tracked the metrics, you've optimized your life down to the minute, and yet there's a strange hollowness inside you, a sense that something is still missing. It's subtle, not loud like depression, not sharp like grief, but quiet, persistent, like a hunger you can't name. Why? Because no matter how many parts of your life you fix, you are not a machine. You are a human. And humans aren't meant to live in constant self-surveillance. We are not meant to treat rest like laziness. We are not meant to monetize every passion. We are not meant to feel guilty for being tired. But in the world of self-improvement, guilt is baked into the system. Didn't wake up at 5 a.m.? Guilt. Missed a workout? Guilt. Didn't hit your goals this month? Guilt. Feeling burned out? Well, that must be your fault too. Because if you were truly disciplined enough, you wouldn't feel this way. This is the lie that keeps you grinding. That if you feel broken, it's because you're not trying hard enough. But what if your exhaustion is not a failure, but a message? What if your body, your spirit, your intuition are all trying to whisper, you were never meant to live like this? The emptiness you feel doesn't mean you failed. It might mean you've been chasing the wrong prize. Because self-improvement often starts with noble intentions. But somewhere along the way, it mutates. It becomes performative, addictive, shame-based. And most dangerously of all, it becomes an identity. You no longer improve because you want to grow. You improve because you don't believe you're allowed to just be. It's why so many high achievers feel hollow. Why people who have it all still can't sleep at night. Why no milestone ever feels like enough. Because when self-improvement becomes self-rejection, no amount of success will heal you. You'll always be chasing wholeness, but running from the parts of yourself you refuse to accept. This is the paradox. The more you try to perfect yourself, the more broken you feel. Self-help is a $13 billion industry. Books, seminars, courses, coaches, masterminds, productivity apps, morning routine journals. And for every success story that's shared, there are thousands of quiet failures you'll never hear about. Why? Because failure doesn't sell. But more importantly, self-help doesn't work unless you believe you're broken. Let that sink in. The entire industry thrives on your insecurity, your pain, your belief that something is missing and someone else has the answer. That's the hidden business model. The more incomplete you feel, the more you'll buy. Buy the book, buy the course, buy the formula, buy the 10 steps to unlimited success. And here's the dark part. Most of it does work at first, because change feels good. Progress is addictive. You get the dopamine hit. You feel like you're in control again. But then what? You hit a plateau. Life gets messy. You slip. You relapse. You burn out. And now you feel ashamed. Not just for failing, but for failing self-improvement. So what do? You buy again. You chase again. You look for the next guru, the next trick, the next life hack, and this loop is exactly what they want. Because if you ever actually felt whole, if you ever actually believed you were enough, you'd stop consuming. You'd stop needing the product, and the whole machine would collapse. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's marketing 101. Insecurity is profitable. And so, the self-help world subtly shifts your focus from growth to performance, from self-awareness to self-surveillance, from becoming your best self to becoming a brand. You're no longer a person on a journey. You're a product in development, always one version behind, always needing an update. But here's the truth no one sells. You do not need to be perfect to be worthy. You do not need to fix everything to start living. You do not need a 6-figure morning routine, a cold plunge, or a color-coded calendar to feel peace. Sometimes what you need is to stop running, to stop optimizing, to stop trying to earn love through achievement. Because if you never feel like you're enough, even your wins will feel like failure. You know it isn't working. You feel burned out, trapped, tired of chasing an ideal that keeps moving just out of reach. And yet, you can't stop. Why? Why do we stay addicted to self-improvement, even when it starts to hurt? Because in some strange, twisted way, self-improvement gives us meaning. It gives us identity. It gives us structure. It gives us a reason to keep going when everything else feels out of control. And that's the hook. When life feels chaotic, self-help says, here's a path. When you feel powerless, self-help says, here's what to control. When you feel unworthy, self-help says, you can become someone better. And who wouldn't want that? But here's the trap. It's never enough. The moment you reach one goal, another appears. You hit a milestone, but your standards rise. You look back and realize you've been chasing the feeling of improvement, not the reality. You've been sold a mirage, because the idea that you must always be improving means you must never be satisfied. And so you begin to measure your worth, not by who you are, but by how far you are from your potential. You compare yourself to a hypothetical version of you that doesn't exist. And every moment you're not living up to it feels like failure. You start to believe rest is laziness, relaxation is weakness, acceptance is giving up. But none of that is true. In fact, your inability to stop improving might be a trauma response. It might be how you learned to survive, by performing, by proving, by trying to earn love, safety, or approval through achievement. And the self-help world, it rewards that. It tells you to hustle harder, wake up earlier, do more, be more, even if you're already falling apart inside. But growth is not meant to be punishment. Self-improvement is not meant to be self-erasure. You're allowed to change, but you're also allowed to be. The truth is, many people are terrified to stop improving because they've built their entire identity around the chase. If they stop, who will they be? And that fear, it's valid, but it's also the key. Because once you let go of who you think you should be, you can finally meet who you are. And from that place, real growth becomes possible. Not the kind that's fueled by shame or fear, but the kind that's grounded in love. Just be positive. Everything happens for a reason. Good vibes only. You've heard the mantras. They're plastered on coffee mugs, vision boards, and Instagram stories. They sound wise, uplifting, harmless. But what if they're not? What if positivity, when misused, becomes another mask? A way to avoid the truth? In the world of self-improvement, positivity is often treated like a weapon, a shield to deflect discomfort, a sword to slay negative thoughts. But in reality, it's often just a spiritual bypass. That's a term psychologists use to describe what happens when people use spiritual language or higher thinking to avoid their real emotions. Instead of facing grief, they say, everything is energy. Instead of confronting trauma, they meditate it away. Instead of admitting they're hurting, they chant affirmations over their pain, like bandages on bullet wounds. But here's the truth. Healing isn't always pretty. It's not a vision board or a gratitude list. Sometimes it's screaming into a pillow. Sometimes it's shaking on the bathroom floor. Sometimes it's admitting that no, things are not okay right now. And that's not negative. That's honest. But in the self-help world, honesty gets mistaken for weakness. You're told to flip your mindset, reframe the story, stay high vibe no matter what. And in doing that, you abandon the parts of you that still need care. You silence the inner child who's scared. You ignore the shadow that's begging for your attention. You push pain deeper down, hoping if you just think positively enough, it'll vanish. But buried pain doesn't disappear. It festers. And one day, it starts to leak. Through anger, through anxiety, through chronic burnout you can't explain. And when that happens, the system you built on fake positivity begins to collapse. You start to realize all those affirmations didn't heal you. They distracted you. And there's a difference. Real healing is not about feeling good all the time. It's about feeling everything, so you can learn what needs to be healed. The shadow has wisdom too. The parts of you that hurt. They carry truths your ego can't handle yet. And ironically, the more you suppress them, the more power they gain. So if positivity is being used to silence your pain, it's not helping you grow. It's keeping you stuck. You don't heal by pretending everything is light. You heal by walking through the dark with your eyes open. So next time someone says, just be positive, ask yourself, am I being encouraged or being dismissed? Because not all smiles are kind, and not all light is healing. In the beginning, self-improvement feels like liberation. You wake up early, you journal, you hit the gym, you stop scrolling, you set goals, read books, say no to distractions. And for a while, it works. You feel sharper, stronger, more in control. You start to believe, I'm becoming the person I was always meant to be. But here's the twist. At some point, it stops being about growth and starts being about identity. You're no longer just improving yourself. You're building a new self to worship. You're addicted to the version of you that's always on, always grinding, always improving, always leveling up. You become afraid of slipping, afraid of days off, afraid of being seen as anything less than exceptional. You tell yourself it's discipline, but really it's fear. Because who are you without the routine, without the morning checklist, without the dopamine hits from constant progress? Here's what no one tells you. You can become so obsessed with the persona of growth that you forget to grow. You create a character, a high-performance optimized version of yourself. And then you get trapped inside it. Every failure feels like betrayal. Every lazy day feels like identity collapse. Every unproductive hour feels like proof you're losing the game. And suddenly, self-improvement becomes self-imprisonment. You live in fear of regression. You measure your worth by your streaks. You can't relax. Because relaxation doesn't fit the brand. You've confused becoming better with becoming invincible. And that's where the danger begins. Because true self-growth includes softness, vulnerability, rest, humility. But when you're addicted to the image of progress, those things look like weakness. You stop doing what's good for you and start doing what makes you look like a winner. You curate your life around hustle, productivity, ambition, not realizing that in chasing your best self, you've lost touch with your real self. You've become a product of the algorithm,
a mirror of influencers, a self-help avatar, optimized, branded, sold, and you don't even realize it, because it feels like success. That's the hardest part. When the addiction is praised, when the mask is celebrated, when the obsession looks like virtue, who's going to stop you? The answer has to be you. You have to be the one to pause, to ask the question, am I doing this to grow or to prove I'm worth something? Because if your identity depends on performance, then no amount of growth will ever feel like enough. You'll always need more. More hacks, more wins, more validation. But growth without peace is not growth. It's a treadmill disguised as a staircase. So here's the truth. You are not your routines. You are not your habits. You are not your reading list, your macros, your highlight reel. You are a human being. Messy, complex, incomplete, and you always will be. And that's not failure. That's freedom. There's a fine line between discipline and self-punishment. And in the world of self-improvement, that line gets crossed more often than anyone wants to admit. You start waking up at 5 a.m., you hit the gym 6 days a week, you cut sugar, caffeine, alcohol, rest. You say no to social events, no to vacations, no to anything that doesn't add value. At first, it feels empowering. You're in control. You're leveling up. You're getting stronger, mentally, physically, spiritually. But slowly, something changes. You don't choose the routine anymore. You obey it. Miss a day, you spiral. Sleep in, you self-loathe. Eat one bad meal, you punish yourself at the gym. It's no longer growth. It's a war. You become hypercritical, relentlessly rigid, obsessed with improvement. Even when your body's breaking down, and people will praise you for it. They'll call you inspiring, dedicated, relentless. But what they won't see is the panic attacks, the injuries, the insomnia, the isolation, because you've become a machine, but one that's running on fear. Fear of mediocrity, fear of softness, fear of being anything less than perfect. And here's the brutal irony. In trying to become your best self, you slowly destroy your actual self. You forget how to enjoy food, how to laugh without guilt, how to rest without shame. You turn your life into a performance, a spreadsheet of goals, a checklist of achievements, and still, something inside you feels empty. That emptiness? It's not failure. It's your soul trying to breathe. Because deep down you know, growth was never meant to feel like punishment. The human spirit doesn't bloom under cruelty. It grows through nourishment, through compassion, through balance. But self-improvement culture rarely talks about balance. It glorifies extremes. No pain, no gain. Outwork everyone. Sleep when you're dead. These aren't mottos. They're warning signs. They tell you that worth is earned, not inherent. That rest is weakness. That love must be delayed until you've earned it. But what if that's the real sickness? What if the thing you're trying to grind your way into, peace, purpose, self-love, was never something you had to earn? What if it was something you had to remember? You were born enough, before the habits, before the hustle, before the self-help books. And any system of growth that makes you forget that is not growth. It's a trap. At the heart of most self-help advice is a dangerous idea dressed in motivational language. If you're not successful, not happy, not fulfilled, it's your fault. Sounds empowering, right? It puts the power in your hands. No more blaming the world. No more waiting for a miracle. You are the problem, so you can be the solution. But here's the catch. That mindset, when taken too far, becomes a form of emotional self-abuse. Because not everything is your fault. Not every failure is a lesson. Not every wound is a sign that you didn't try hard enough. Sometimes life is just cruel, unfair, chaotic. People get sick, jobs fall through, loved ones leave, mental health spirals, and when you're indoctrinated with the belief that you should be able to fix it all, you turn every tragedy into a personal indictment. My mindset wasn't strong enough. I must have attracted this. I didn't manifest it correctly. I should have worked harder, meditated more, visualized better. You don't just feel pain. You feel shame for feeling pain. Because in the self-improvement world, even suffering becomes a performance metric. You're not allowed to just hurt. You have to heal faster, smile wider, grow from it, post about it, and if you don't, then you must be doing self-help wrong. This is where the ideology becomes cult-like. You're constantly chasing perfection, constantly blaming yourself when it doesn't arrive, and constantly seeking out the next guru, the next podcast, the next life hack to save you from the feeling that you are never quite enough. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the system you're trying to thrive in, the hyper-capitalist, algorithm-driven, comparison-fueled machine, is designed to make you feel perpetually incomplete? What if your constant self-blame isn't spiritual awakening, but internalized gaslighting? Here's the truth. Personal responsibility is powerful, but so is context. So is compassion. So is knowing when something is not your fault. You are not broken because you're struggling. You are not weak because you need rest. You are not failing because you can't keep up with the highlight reels. Sometimes, the most radical form of self-help is letting go of the idea that you must always be fixing yourself. You are allowed to just be, to hurt, to rest, to not know the next step. And you are still worthy in all of it. In the next chapter, we look at a darker ripple effect of the self-help illusion, how it isolates us from real connection and convinces us we must walk this path alone. Self-improvement starts with good intentions. You want to level up, become stronger, wiser, healthier, better. But somewhere along the way, you stop seeing people as companions and start seeing them as distractions. You hear it everywhere. Cut off negative people. Surround yourself with winners. Protect your energy. And slowly, your life becomes a filter. You don't just work on yourself. You begin editing your world. That friend who's still struggling, too low vibe. That partner who isn't on the same path, dead weight. That family member who disagrees with your goals, toxic. What starts as boundaries becomes isolation. You build a fortress around your growth, and then wonder why you feel alone inside it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Self-improvement, in its extreme form, teaches you to optimize your relationships rather than nurture them. You start asking, what value does this person bring to my life? Instead of, how can I love them where they are? You begin seeing other people's pain, not as something to hold, but as something that might slow you down. This mindset isn't strength. It's fear, dressed as wisdom. And it creates a world where vulnerability becomes weakness, struggle becomes failure, and community becomes optional. But the human soul wasn't built for isolation. You don't evolve in a vacuum. You grow through connection, through witnessing someone else's journey, through holding space for imperfection, through being reminded that your worth was never supposed to be a solo achievement. Some of the most meaningful growth doesn't come from cutting people off. It comes from staying, listening, loving someone even when they're not high performing. Because if your path to self-improvement costs you your humanity, it's not self-improvement, it's self-abandonment. And here's something else no one talks about. A lot of the people you look up to, the influencers, the entrepreneurs, the coaches, they're lonely too. Behind the curated content, behind the 5 a.m. routines and luxury aesthetics, are human beings who ache to be known, not just admired. Growth doesn't have to mean outgrowing everyone. Real growth expands your capacity to love, to include, to embrace messiness. And sometimes, the most radical act of transformation is learning to stay close to people, even when they're not on your level. Because maybe the point isn't to ascend beyond everyone. Maybe it's to return to them with more grace. You've heard the story before. Work hard, hustle, grind, push harder, and eventually, success will come knocking. But what if it never does? Or worse, what if it does, but it's not enough? Welcome to the success trap. It looks like a shining trophy at first. That promotion, that business launch, that recognition. But underneath, it's a treadmill, a loop you can't escape. Because in the self-improvement world, success is rarely enough. There's always a higher goal, another milestone, a bigger target. You're told, if you rest, you'll fall behind. If you celebrate too much, you become complacent. If you don't constantly improve, you're failing. So you chase and chase and chase. And the harder you run, the more exhausted you become. But the finish line keeps moving. And this chase isn't just physical. It becomes mental, emotional, spiritual. You start defining your worth by what you accomplish, not by who you are. Your value becomes tied to your productivity, your output, your visible success, and the cost: burnout, anxiety, an emptiness that no promotion can fill. You lose touch with why you started in the first place. You forget that success was supposed to be a means, not the end. You begin sacrificing your health, your relationships, your peace, for a trophy that keeps getting smaller, the more you hold it. But here's the secret. True growth isn't a sprint to an invisible finish line. It's a deep, sometimes slow, unfolding. It's learning to define success on your own terms, terms that include rest, joy, connection, and meaning. Because no amount of external achievement can fill the void left by neglecting your inner world. So the next time you feel the pressure to hustle harder, ask yourself, am I chasing growth or running from something? Perfectionism is a double-edged sword. On one side, it pushes you toward excellence. On the other, it traps you in a prison of endless self-judgment. In the world of self-improvement, perfectionism is often glorified. Push yourself harder. Demand more. Never settle. But what happens when never settle turns into never enough? You start to see flaws in everything you do, even your victories, even your progress. A small mistake becomes a catastrophe. A missed goal becomes a sign of failure. And you're caught in a cycle of chasing an ideal that's always just out of reach. This isn't motivation, it's a trap. It steals your joy, it steals your peace, it steals your sense of self. Because perfectionism isn't about growth. It's about fear. Fear of being less than you imagine you should be. And it tells you, if you're not perfect, you're not worthy. But here's a truth that self-improvement gurus often skip. Growth thrives in imperfection. The cracks, the failures, the messy human moments. They're where transformation happens. Imagine if you treated your mistakes, not as failures, but as steps forward. If you allowed yourself grace instead of judgment. If you recognize that being good enough is often better than being stuck chasing perfect.
Because perfectionism isn't a sign of ambition. It's a symptom of fear. And the only way out is through radical self-acceptance. It's everywhere. The endless scroll of achievements, highlight reels, curated lives. Comparison is the silent thief that steals your confidence, your joy, your momentum. In the realm of self-improvement, it's easy to fall into this trap. Why am I not further ahead? Why don't I have what they have? Am I doing something wrong? But comparison is a lie dressed as truth. Each journey is unique. Each path winds differently. What you see is a fraction. Often the polished highlight, not the struggle underneath. Comparison steals your story and replaces it with someone else's. It breeds resentment. It fuels insecurity. It leads to burnout. Because when you constantly measure your worth by someone else's standards, you disconnect from your own progress. The true power of self-improvement is found in connection to self, not in mimicking others, but in discovering your own strengths, values, and pace. Now imagine if you could break free from this curse. Focus not on where others are, but on where you are going. Celebrate your unique journey. Honor your steps forward. This is liberation. It starts small. A little extra work here. One more book. An extra hour of grinding. But soon, the just a little more becomes a storm. Burnout creeps in like a shadow, stealing your energy, your joy, your creativity. The self-improvement culture glorifies hustle. It praises relentless effort, endless productivity. But what if that constant push isn't strength? What if it's exhaustion masquerading as growth? Burnout doesn't just drain your body, it erodes your soul. You lose sight of why you started. The passion dims, the goals feel heavy, and the worst part, you blame yourself. You think you're weak, not disciplined enough. But burnout is a warning sign. It tells you something deeper is out of balance. Your mind needs rest. Your heart needs meaning. Your body needs care. True growth isn't about pushing until you break. It's about pacing yourself, listening to your limits, honoring your rhythms, finding sustainable momentum. The danger is mistaking burnout for failure, when really it's a call to recalibrate. In a world obsessed with more, choosing less can be the ultimate power move. We crave control. It's wired deep within us. Control feels like safety, like a shield against chaos. In self-improvement, control becomes a seductive promise. If you master every habit, plan every hour, tweak every detail, you can sculpt the perfect life. But here's the catch. Perfection is an illusion. Control is a mirage shimmering on the horizon, always just out of reach. When you chase control too hard, you trap yourself in endless cycles of self-criticism. Missed a goal? You beat yourself up. A setback? You spiral deeper. You start believing you're not enough, not disciplined enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. The harder you chase perfection, the more fragile you become. Because life, real life, is messy, unpredictable, wild. True growth doesn't come from controlling every outcome. It comes from learning to dance with uncertainty, to embrace the beauty of imperfection, to say yes to the messy, beautiful chaos of being human. The paradox? Letting go of control actually gives you more power, more freedom, more peace. When you accept you can't control everything, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters, your values, your joy, your connection. Look around. In the age of social media, comparison is relentless. We scroll through highlight reels. Perfect bodies, perfect careers, perfect lives, and something inside us tightens. A whisper turns into a roar. Why am I not there yet? What's wrong with me? Comparison is a thief. It steals your joy, your confidence, your sense of self. It convinces you that your worth depends on being better than someone else. But here's the brutal truth. Comparison is a lie
wrapped in envy and insecurity. You're not seeing the full story behind the highlight reel. You're seeing only curated moments, carefully edited to show success, not struggle. When you trap yourself in this cycle, you become disconnected from yourself, from your values, from your purpose. You start chasing other people's dreams, chasing validation instead of meaning. The antidote? Shift your gaze inward. Celebrate your own growth, no matter how small. Recognize your unique journey. Comparison isn't the measure of your progress. It's a distraction from it. When you break free from comparison, you reclaim your power to define success on your own terms. We live in a world that worships hustle, grind harder, push further, sleep less. The self-improvement culture often glorifies non-stop effort, as if exhaustion is a badge of honor. But here's the dark truth. Pushing yourself relentlessly, without pause, isn't strength. It's a slow unraveling. Burnout isn't just tiredness. It's a deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that seeps into every part of your life. Your passion fades, your motivation dries up, your joy disappears. Ironically, the very drive that pushed you forward becomes the force that pulls you under. Why does this happen? Because growth without balance is a mirage, like building a house on sand. No amount of hustle can replace rest, reflection, and recovery. When you ignore the signals your body and mind send, you're walking toward a crash. But here's what's revolutionary. Rest isn't weakness. Rest is strategy. It's the secret ingredient of every truly unstoppable person. They know when to push and when to pause, when to sprint and when to breathe. In the burnout paradox, less is more. Less frantic effort, more intentional presence. Less chasing, more cultivating. Because sustainable growth is a marathon, not a sprint. At first, it sounds harmless, maybe even helpful. Just stay positive. Focus on the bright side. Don't let negativity hold you back. Self-improvement communities often preach this like gospel. But what if this relentless pressure to be positive actually hides a darker truth? Toxic positivity is the mask that tells you your pain isn't real, your struggles don't matter. It silences doubt, grief, and all the messy emotions we're afraid to face. When you tell yourself, or others, to always look on the bright side, you're denying the fullness of human experience. It's like trying to heal a wound by covering it with a tight bandage that never comes off. The wound festers underneath, and that festering pain doesn't disappear. It sneaks back in, often more powerful, more confusing. Why? Because healing requires acknowledgement, not avoidance. Growth isn't linear, it's a spiral. Sometimes you have to walk through the dark to find the light. And by ignoring the dark, toxic positivity keeps you stuck, in denial, isolated, afraid to ask for help. The true power of self-improvement lies in embracing your whole self. The light and the shadow, the triumphs and the failures, the joy and the pain. When you give space to your struggles, you create room for real transformation. You become resilient, not by pretending everything is perfect, but by facing imperfection head-on. Scroll through any social feed, and you're bombarded. Look at their success. See how far they've come. Why aren't you there yet? Comparison. It's the silent thief of joy. The shadow that creeps behind every win, whispering, not good enough, not fast enough, not smart enough. In the world of self-improvement, comparison can be deadly, because it tricks you into believing your worth depends on someone else's highlight reel. You measure your growth in inches stolen from others' journeys. But here's the brutal truth. Your path is yours alone. No one else's progress can dictate your pace or define your value. This illusion of progress, that you should be moving faster or farther, creates a pressure cooker. Burnout, anxiety, and self-doubt become collateral damage. What if you stopped chasing someone else's version of success? What if you celebrated your own small wins, your unique milestones? True growth isn't a race. It's a steady unfolding. And the most powerful progress happens quietly, beneath the surface. There's a fine line between striving for growth and spiraling into obsession. You start with a goal, a vision of a better you. At first it feels empowering, but then it becomes relentless. Every achievement feels like it's never enough. Every flaw, every weakness, magnified under a harsh spotlight. This obsession twists self-improvement into a self-punishment. You chase perfection like it's a finish line, but the line keeps moving. You become a prisoner to an endless cycle of fixing yourself. The dangers here are real. Burnout, anxiety, a fractured sense of self-worth. You lose sight of who you are beneath the checklist of better. This isn't growth. It's exhaustion dressed as progress. True transformation requires balance. It demands you honor your limits, your humanity. It means embracing imperfections, not erasing them. Knowing when to push forward and when to rest. When self-improvement becomes an obsession, it steals your joy. The joy that once fueled your journey. Because the real power isn't in constant change. It's in learning when to say, I am enough. We live in a world obsessed with improvement. Every day, a new promise. Become better, faster, stronger. But beneath the shiny surface of self-help lies a mirage. The idea that perfection is not just possible, but required. This pursuit can consume us, turning growth into a relentless chase where nothing is ever enough. Imagine climbing a ladder that stretches into the clouds, but every step forward reveals an even taller ladder beyond it. It's exhausting and dangerous. Because when perfection becomes the goal, failure isn't just a setback, it's a catastrophe. The dark side emerges in that space where self-improvement stops being about flourishing and starts becoming about punishing yourself for not being flawless. This is the trap, and it can crush your spirit. Self-improvement is supposed to make you better, but better than who? That's the question we often forget to ask, because improvement in today's world rarely happens in isolation. It happens while watching someone else run ahead, while scrolling through curated success stories, while comparing your day 1 to someone else's year 10. And the moment comparison enters the game, growth turns into competition. At first you think you're just getting inspired. A better physique, a cleaner diet, a sharper routine. You borrow a little from this person and a little from that one. You create a vision board, a plan, a schedule, but somewhere along the way, the goalpost moves. You're no longer trying to become your best self. You're trying to become better than someone else. More money than him, more discipline than her, more hustle, more books, more morning routines. And then it hits you. You've become addicted to other people's progress. But here's the secret. No one wants to say out loud. Self-improvement is deeply vulnerable work. It takes time, honesty, repetition. And when you wrap that vulnerability in constant comparison, you lose the whole point. Because growth is not always visible. Sometimes the biggest win is getting out of bed when you don't want to. Sometimes it's saying no to a toxic opportunity. Sometimes it's just choosing rest, without guilt. But comparison doesn't honor those moments. It skips right to highlight reels. And the result? You start to feel behind, like you're failing, like you're never doing enough, even when you're doing everything you can. The irony? The people you compare yourself to, they're probably comparing themselves too. It's a loop, a trap, a game no one wins. So how do you escape it? By coming back to center. The real question is not, am I doing better than them? It's, am I doing better than I used to? Not in achievements, not in followers or income or reps at the gym, but in honesty, in integrity, in peace. Because real growth is not performative. It's quiet, humble, often invisible. The more you compare yourself, the more you lose your reflection. And if you lose that, you lose your power. This is the danger we rarely talk about. Self-improvement becomes a mirror made of glass shards, and every glance cuts you deeper. But growth doesn't need to hurt like this. It doesn't need to be a war against everyone else. It can be slow, personal, sacred. And when it is, you stop chasing someone else's finish line and start respecting your own journey. At some point on the path of self-improvement, you will be tempted to disappear, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, because in your obsession to become your best self, you may start cutting away everything that makes you human. Your flaws, your emotions, your softness, your spontaneity, gone. In pursuit of perfection, you become mechanical, optimized, efficient, sharp, but also brittle. You stop making mistakes, but you also stop taking risks. You stop wasting time, but you also stop savoring it. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to lose your ability to connect. Because people don't bond over how perfect you are. They bond over how real you are. No one opens up to a statue. They open up to a soul. And this is one of the darkest truths of self-improvement. In trying so hard to fix yourself, you may forget how to be yourself. You build routines so rigid they choke out joy. You create identities so curated they lose all depth. You become so obsessed with control that you suffocate the very aliveness you were trying to unlock. This is not freedom. This is another kind of prison. The bars are made of discipline, and the guard is your inner critic. So here's a radical thought. What if improvement wasn't the point? What if the real path isn't upward, but inward? What if you're not supposed to become flawless, but full, not perfect, but whole? That includes the mistakes, the wounds, the imperfections that make your story yours. Because the people who light up rooms, who change lives, who move mountains, they're not perfect. They're human. They've grown, yes, but they haven't outgrown themselves. And maybe that's the real secret. Not becoming superhuman, but becoming fully, unapologetically, breathtakingly human. In the end, the question isn't whether self-improvement works. It's who you become in the process. Because for all the books, the cold showers, the to-do lists, the dopamine detoxes, there's something no strategy, no system, no hack can ever give you: peace. That's the thing we're all searching for, isn't it? Not six-pack abs, not a seven-figure business, not a library of unread books that make us feel smart, but a quiet moment where we can finally say, I'm okay, right here, right now. The dark side of self-improvement is that it convinces you that you're never enough, that the only way to be worthy is to earn it, prove it, chase it. But worthiness isn't a finish line. It's a birthright. You weren't put on this earth to optimize your way into being lovable. You were already enough before you ever lifted a weight, wrote a journal entry, or said your first affirmation. And sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is stop trying to fix yourself. Because you're not broken. You've been hurt. You've been misled. You've made mistakes. You've struggled. But that's not brokenness. That's life. You've grown through things you never thought you'd survive. You've carried burdens that would crush someone else. You've kept going, even when no one saw you. That is not failure. That is resilience. That is power. And it's time you started seeing that. Self-improvement can be beautiful, but only if you remember the most important truth of all. You are not a project. You are a person. You are not a problem to solve. You are a soul to honor. Growth is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to be ashamed, before the criticism, before the comparison, before the endless striving. The version of you that laughed without guilt, played without fear, loved without keeping score, that self, the real you, is still in there, waiting to be welcomed home. So maybe the final chapter of self-improvement is not becoming unstoppable. It's becoming gentle. Gentle with your process, gentle with your pace, gentle with the parts of you that are still healing. Because you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. You can grow without abandoning yourself. You can strive without punishing yourself. And you can rise. Not because you hate where you are, but because you finally remembered who you've always been. So here's your permission slip to rest, to breathe, to stop chasing, and to look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of me, because that is the moment you become truly unstoppable. Not when the world claps, not when the numbers validate you, not when you hit the next milestone, but when you realize you never needed to be fixed. You just needed to come home.